All right, welcome back to the Copywriters podcast with your host, the world's greatest copywriting coach, David Garfinkel. David, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm good, Nathan. How are you?
I'm fantastic, and I am beyond excited for today's episode because we've got the return of one of my favorite guests. Last time he was on, he just blew my mind with all the jewels that he dropped, and I'm stoked to see what he's got lined up for us today.
Okay, well, I will introduce him in a second. First thing I want to do is say one meeting of the minds reigns supreme above all others in copywriting. And that's when the copywriter understands and addresses the same thoughts that are most pressing in the minds of his best prospects. Our returning champion today is the incredible Caleb O'Dowd. He was here a few weeks ago when he told us about some closely guarded secrets from his book, Monetization: How to Optimize Sales Funnels and Skyrocket Backends. Caleb has worked in some of the toughest and most competitive industries in the world, and he has repeatedly launched and scaled businesses up to 7 and 8 figures from zero, all through the smart use of great copy and strategic sales funnels. But what was the thinking and the copy that went into those promotions? What was behind it? Smart research, something Caleb knows quite a bit about. Although he is a legend in his own right among insiders in direct response marketing, Caleb also has the rare distinction of having been mentored by the late Gary Halbert, one of the greatest copywriters of all time. Today, Caleb will give us some highly important tips and insights regarding research, probably a few valuable things you've never heard before. And this is going to be a powerful 30 minutes. So be sure you're listening closely and ready to take notes. All that and more after I tell you this: copy is powerful. You're responsible for how you use what you hear on this podcast. And most of the time, common sense is all you need. But if you make extreme claims, and or if you're writing copy for offers in highly regulated industries like health, finance, and business opportunity, you may want to get a legal review after you write and before you start using your copy. My larger clients do this all the time. So, Caleb, welcome back. And I'm so excited to hear what you have to say about research today.
Well, thank you guys very much for having me back. I'm absolutely honored. So yeah, I mean this meeting I guess came from a chat that you and I had, David. The topic of research is really very powerful, and really where the game is won. One of my favorite quotes from the legendary Gary Bencivenga is that the game is won in research. And when I was with Gary Halbert, I was always amazed at how he would take on a client. He would commit to completing the copy in a 30-day period, and he would not do anything for 28 days in terms of writing. What was going on in that 28-day period was massive amounts of research and planning and plotting and scheming and masterminding. And then on day 28, he would sit down, write the copy. Then on day 29, he would polish up the copy, and then on day 30, he would give it one more edit and then get it over to the client. And what I learned was just the how much time, energy, blood, sweat, and tears should really go into the research phase. This topic of how to research is something massive. And throughout my career, as I began to study other copywriters, I really kind of reached a stage where I didn't really, want to learn the tactics or the strategies or see how these things were implemented. I kind of reached a stage where I understood all of that. What I wanted to know was the real magic, and that is, how does a genius copywriter, how does a master salesman go about the process of orchestrating, manifesting a brilliant sales message? And over the years, I've really, really developed a very powerful system of my own that works really well for me for doing this. And if I was to teach it in its entirety, I'd really need at least a 7-day period, I imagine, where it would be 8 hours a day for 7 straight days to just try and encapsulate everything that is involved in researching and planning and masterminding a brilliant piece of advertisement. So, with the small amount of time that we have here today, really all I can do is just kind of pick one little aspect of things that to me personally is so critically important. It's kind of like the master key that sets the tone for a great sales message thereafter. And I call it the urgent dilemma. The urgent dilemma is essentially a very deep and detailed understanding of exactly what it is that is happening, the problem, but not just any problem, a dilemma, a scenario that has taken place in the prospect's life that is causing a very, very urgent problem. And if I can understand truly what that scenario is, what that dilemma is, and all of the emotions and the problems and the hassles and the frustrations that are associated with that, then everything else kind of springs from that. It's not that this is ultimately the most important thing, but it is absolutely the cornerstone of breakthrough advertising in my experience. And what I have learned over the years is that if you can truly step inside the mind of your prospect and really understand what is going on there, and you can kind of portray that in copy, if you can clearly identify what the problem is and all of the emotions that are associated with it, that what happens is your words land like lightning in the hearts and the minds of the people who are consuming your advertising. They become glued to your advertising, and it starts this process of themselves convincing themselves that nobody else out there understands me, my problem, my dilemma, my situation better than you, the advertiser, and therefore no one is more qualified to help me than you. And that creates massive trust, it creates massive engagement, and it tears down all resistance to being sold.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the
Let
other
me let me interrupt you about this. This is awesome. This is mind-boggling because I've never heard it before, and you're absolutely right. And I just want to underline and maybe define a little better, or get you to define a little better, if you would, this idea of the urgent dilemma, because a lot of people talk about, problem, agitate, solution, and a lot of people understand that, the purpose of business really is to find a way to solve people's problems and get paid for it. But you're not just talking about a problem, about naming a problem. You're not just talking about the implications of the problem. You're talking about going much deeper. You're talking about what their experience is like, what all the initial and secondary and tertiary emotions are, how they talk to themselves about it, what their thoughts are about if they don't solve it, and the downward spiral they might get. All of those things. Am I right?
Absolutely, and even more important than all of that, because that's critical. But even more important than that, you see, I learned from Halbert how like to find that one prospect who is going to be the best quality buyer, that one prospect that is willing to throw caution to the wind and just buy with reckless abandon. And the key is to find someone who is the hottest buyer for what it is that you have to offer, because not all prospects are created equal. Not all prospects are in a situation where they're just dying for a solution. Not all of them are there. And it's not just important enough to find that one prospect who is the most likely to buy from you, but it is important to find the prospect who is most important to buy for you in the largest possible quantity. So the person that is most likely to buy from you, in my experience, and based on all of my experience having targeted all the wrong guys all the time, I've done this from niche to niche to niche to niche to niche to niche, and the penultimate understanding that I have developed, and the penultimate strategy that I have developed for targeting the very best type of person, is the type of person that you want is somebody that has, number one, an urgent problem. An urgent problem is a problem that if it doesn't get fixed, it gets worse and worse and worse. And not just that it gets worse and worse and worse, it's that every day that goes by where it doesn't get solved, it becomes more and more and more painful. But not just that, it's that you have an urgent problem and the person is caught between a rock and a hard place, meaning that I have this urgent problem, it's getting worse and worse and worse, but I've tried everything. This is one example of it. I've tried everything, nothing has worked, and now I'm totally lost and I'm totally confused, but the clock is ticking, and if I don't find the solution here, I'm doomed. Now, that type of scenario plays out in almost every niche that direct marketers really are aggressive with. So almost every niche, that type of caught between a rock and a hard place, urgent problem plays out. So I have gone from niche to niche to niche to niche, identifying this urgent dilemma, and I've been able to score really, really big in terms of targeting, getting a deep understanding of what that urgent dilemma is for that prospect, and then really providing an absolutely unique and killer solution to that particular urgent problem. The trick, as I said, the knack for pulling this off spectacularly is really to identify an urgent dilemma that is relevant to the largest possible quantity of people in that niche. The mistakes that I've seen other people do with this, other advertisers do with this, is they target an urgent problem that is only relevant to a very small quantity of prospects in the niche, and therefore they get great results, but there's no runway. They can't really go anywhere with it. So the knack is to really try and identify what is that real urgent problem, that real urgent dilemma, that rock in a hard place that is relevant to the masses within that niche, and without targeting a prospect that is just never going to buy. So there is a knack to it. And what I think would be kind of cool, because I'm actually working, I've partnered with two guys. We're going to build a SaaS product, and we're going to provide a really outstanding solution to internet business owners. So the job for me has been to initially, this is long before copy is written, and the following is not even really copy. It's just intel for me that forms the basis for me to go and create copy later on that's going to land like lightning in the hearts and minds of these people when I go to create the advertising. But what I've done is I've gone out and I've researched what is the urgent dilemma for an internet business owner, because the SaaS that I'm building is essentially a cart abandonment follow-up sales recovery system that uses multi-channel marketing. It does all this tracking and reporting. It's really an exceptional solution here. And so my goal has been to identify what is the urgent problem. So I've got two things for you guys here today. If you know, I hope it would be interesting to you. Number one, I've got everything that I do in copy. I try to boil it down into a series of questions. So everything I'm looking for, I try and simplify it into a series of questions to point me in the direction of identifying what is necessary for breakthrough advertising. Halbert used to play this little trick on me. He used to just like say, "Hey, go and research this problem," and it was a trick, because I used to head off into the wilderness. And I would come back with like a whole bunch of absolute nonsense. And what he would do is he would know precisely what he was looking for. And therefore, he would be able to find it in a flash or in a very short amount of time. He would find exactly what is needed to generate a breakthrough in sales. So what I've got for you is a little 10-point checklist, or a little 10-point question series of questions, 10 questions that point me always in the direction of giving me exactly what I need to create this urgent dilemma. And then I've got a short little urgent dilemma to share with you for this prospect that I'm going to be targeting. And then I would like to share with you at the end, if we have enough time, all the emotions that I've crammed into this, so that this is something that really hits home, something that really magnetically and like resonates with who I'm looking for. So if it's cool, I'd like to kind of read out some of the work that I've done here. I'd like to read these 10 questions to you and then give
Yeah,
you an
let's see if we
example.
can. That sounds great. Yes.
All right. So first and foremost, as I said, I have this series of 10 questions, and these questions always point me in the right direction for what it is that I want to create. So question number 1 is, what is the primary goal this prospect is trying to achieve, but is currently failing to reach? Very important. What frustrating problem keeps him or her stuck despite their efforts? I want to know how they're stuck. What logical action has this prospect taken to fix it, only to make things worse? Number 4, what external force is making the situation, the dilemma, the scenario even worse, even harder for this prospect? Number 5, what has this prospect already tried in order to solve this problem that has failed miserably? You'll see how all of this comes together in just a moment. Question number 6, who else is succeeding while they are struggling, and how does that make them feel? These questions are also identifying the emotions that are associated with this dilemma. So these questions are pointing me in the direction of painting this very clear understanding of what the problem is, the urgent problem, what the dilemma is, and all of the emotions that are wrapped up in it. Question number 7, how is this failure affecting this prospect's daily life, emotions, and stress levels? Again, pointing towards the problem and the feelings that are associated with this. Question number 8, what is his or her original dream, and how does their current reality betray that vision? Very few people understand, advertisers and copywriters understand how important it is to get into the head of what is the original dream, what caused them to even be in this niche. What is the genesis for them being here? Because if you can talk to that, then you're talking to the core of what got them here, the primary driver, the primary reason why they're even in this niche looking for a solution. Very few advertisers are able to communicate with a prospect at that depth of understanding. Number 9, what terrifying worst case scenario is creeping closer and closer if they don't fix this? Again, it's got to be there's this nightmare scenario that's going to happen if they don't figure it out. Again, we're in the world of problems and emotions and turmoil and stress and frustration and fear, all of this stuff. This is what's going to make this stuff land like lightning when it comes time to write the copy. And then number 10, what social consequences make this failure even more painful? Like, what's the impact of like not figuring this out? How does their life get hit? How do their relationships get hit? What is it that happens to them socially? Because all problems, they're multifaceted, they're multi-layered. There's so many things going on, and these things affect all aspects of life.
This is a brilliant list of questions. I have a slight understanding of what you're doing, and I appreciate I don't know, I would say the 360 nature of your questions, that you're moving through time, you're moving through different scenarios, a social scenario, a very internal scenario. It's very much like real life, focused on one thing. So I think it's very great.
I just want to add, for the people that are only listening, while Caleb's going through this, David's over here taking notes, which I've never seen him do on the podcast before. So that's how you know this is hard-hitting stuff right here.
Oh,
Well,
yeah. This is gold. Yes, I forgot to say this is gold. But it is.
So the following then is not copy. This does not go in. This is not polished copy that goes into advertising. This is just for me. This is just for me to get a deep understanding of what it is that this person is going through. What is this person's dilemma? How should I speak to this person? What are the points that I need to speak to? What's the understanding? What's the empathy that I need to have? What are the emotional triggers that I need to trip and trigger along the way of creating this advertisement? So that, again, I don't want just good copy. Great copy is the transfer of emotion. So I'm trying to make this person feel something all the time. I'm trying to ring bells in this person's head every time I sit down to write copy. So this dilemma is the following copy, and it's not too long, is just for me. It's just for the strategic planning of hopefully what becomes a breakthrough advertisement. So it's written in the voice of this prospect that I'm targeting. And there's so much going on here. The first thing that I want to say is I'm targeting someone who's spending money on ads, as opposed to someone who's doing social media and trying to generate sales from wherever, Facebook, TikTok,
Right.
YouTube, whatever.
Just to give context, this is for your SaaS product for the abandoned cart recovery system, right?
Exactly. This is essentially a solution to the following urgent problem and urgent dilemma. But I want there's a lot of secrets, there's a lot of magic to this beyond the words. The real magic is that who I'm targeting, because as I said, there's so many different prospects that I could target, but it's the careful, laser specific selection of who I'm targeting that's the real magic in all of this. But anyway, I've chosen to select someone who is spending money on ads because that person has their toes held close to the fire. And I've selected someone who's not just spending money on ads, but I've cast the widest net, while maintaining this situation of urgent problem, dilemma, caught between a rock and a hard place, and see if you can see all of this as I read it out to you. So this is the prospect. I'm spending money on ads, I'm making sales, but not enough profit to scale. Every time I try to increase my ad spend, I lose money while my competitors scale effortlessly. Rising ad costs are making it worse. I see others growing, spending more than me, acquiring more customers than me, while I work around the clock for less and less. I've tried everything: hiring agencies, copywriters, and conversion rate optimization experts, only to watch them waste my time and money. I've rewritten my sales page, tested new offers, split tested my funnel, and launched countless ads, but still no breakthrough. I've switched from Facebook to Google, from Google to YouTube, from YouTube to Instagram, from Instagram to TikTok, but nothing has given me the breakthrough that I need. How are my competitors generating so many sales at a profit while I struggle? Every morning I wake up stressed, knowing I'm running out of time. I've spent months trying to break through and scale, but I'm still stuck. I see guys who started after me scaling to 6, 7, and even 8 figures while I feel trapped and frustrated, watching my vision and goals for this business slip away. This business was supposed to give me financial freedom. It was supposed to give me control over my future and the life I always dreamed about for myself and my family. Instead, I'm working around the clock, feeling stuck, not earning anywhere near the income I always wanted. If I can't fix this soon, rising ad costs will weed me out of existence, and I'll have no choice but to shut down my business and admit failure. I really don't want to go back to a job. I'll look like such a fool to my wife, family, and friends. Now, the keys to there's a few secrets that kind of make all of this connect. And one of the things that I know is that over the last 3 years, the cost of a click on paid traffic platforms has increased by 300%. So
Wow.
life for this guy is getting worse and worse and worse and worse. He was probably very successful. He started off doing really, really well, but as time goes by, his quantity of sales is going down and down and down. His cost per click is going up and up and up, and his profits are going down. So now his toes are being held close to the fire. He sees where this is going. He knows the trend. So his issue is, I can't scale. I can't scale. The rock is, I've tried everything. I've hired copywriters and agencies and conversion rate optimization experts. That's the rock. And the hard place is, nothing has worked. And if I don't fix this, I'm doomed. I'm going to be out of business. And then there's all these emotions that are associated with it. And I'd like to call your attention to them. There are 8 primary emotions associated with this. They're not ranked in order, but but I wanted to give them to you. Number 1 is frustration. I'm spending money on ads, making sales, but not enough profit to scale. Frustration. Envy. Number 2, every time I try to increase my ad spend, I lose money while my competitors scale effortlessly. 3, hopelessness. I've tried everything, hiring agencies, copywriters, and conversion rate optimization experts, only to watch them waste my time and money. Anxiety, number 4. Every morning I wake up stressed, knowing I'm running out of time. Fear, number 5. If I can't fix this soon, rising ad costs will weed me out of existence, and I'll have no choice but to shut down my business and admit failure. Shame, number 6. I really don't want to go back to a job. I'll look like such a fool to my wife, family, and friends. Number 7, regret. This business was supposed to give me financial freedom, control over my future, and the life I always dreamed about. Instead, I'm working around the clock feeling stuck. Number 8, desperation. I've spent months, even years, trying to break through and scale, but I'm still stuck. I got nowhere to go. So those are 8
Yeah.
primary emotions that are wrapped up in this. Again, this is not copy for the ad, but like
Oh,
when you are using all of these emotions and you're hitting the nail on the head with these problems and this situation and this dilemma and the urgency of it and how he's caught between a rock and a hard place, this is what starts to make your copy land like lightning. Almost every paragraph that you're writing is bang, bang, bang. I'm feeling frustration. I'm feeling shame. I'm feeling fear. I'm feeling regret. And this is what pulls people into your copy and makes them massively engaged with what it is that you have to offer. It's also what convinces them that no one else out there understands them like you do. And therefore, no one else is as qualified as you to give me the solution that I desperately need.
yeah. It's very good. When you were reading me, I don't think either of us know what to call it, maybe the Holy Grail or magic statement or something. But when you were reading me that, um, I closed my eyes so I could really listen to it and take it in. And first couple sentences, I just saw the guy running against a wall. And then I started to see him in a room where the walls were closing in, the floor, and just starting to get squeezed. It was
Running out of
so
stuff.
powerful, and so if that's your source, if that's the person you're writing to, and you know that about him, it's going to change every sentence. It's going to change your perspective. It's going to change the structure of what you do. It's going to change the examples, the adjectives, the verbs, the visual descriptions. Um, it's kind of like a gyroscope or a compass or a GPS or something in a way. In other words, it tells you kind of where to go, what to do, but it's hard to describe because yeah, I've never seen anything like that, and it's brilliant.
Well, it's literally a piece of the overall, jigsaw of what is needed to put this
Okay.
whole thing together. It's, there's how to bridge the gap between what that person is going through and what they think that their problem is, and then the real solution that I have later on for them. There's just so much to it, But in 30 minutes, I hope that I at least gave some good value there. But what I always try to do, David, is I've learned over the years, I've really taken that Halbert lesson to heart. And that is, if you don't know what you're looking for, then you're going to gather a whole bunch of crap. And if the ingredients that you have for your sales message is a bunch of crap, then how could you ever possibly expect your sales message to be anything more than crap? So I've put a
Right.
tremendous amount of time into real, like, endless meditation, trying to figure out, like, Halbert was such a genius. He was such a genius that he was beyond the need for, like, formulas and stuff like that. But someone like me, who has to go through this stuff, who's not an absolute genius of this stuff, I needed to identify um, pointers that would navigate my research, point my attention into areas that would allow me to gather magic, so that what I've got to deal with when it comes time to write my copy is I've got breakthrough content, I've got breakthrough material, I've got magic. And if you've got magic to work with and you've got the highest quality ingredients, then coming up with a really great sales message thereafter becomes infinitely easier. But the game is won in research. The game is won in
Yep.
masterminding stuff.
Yes. Absolutely. Nathan, we probably ought to wrap up. I know you could listen to this for hours, and I could too, but we promised our. Oh, Nathan, he's not here anymore. Oh,
I'm
there he is.
here. Man, another episode full of gold. And I am generally, when I onboard clients, I go through hey, who is your target market? I go through some of the, I guess, mundane questions that all of us marketers and copywriters go through. Listening to this, I was just like David. I was closing my eyes and really taking this stuff in. And all I can say is, having this level of depth, especially into the emotional state of where they're at. You mentioned the transference of enthusiasm, but it's more than that. It's the transference of just this broad spectrum of emotional states that the people are in. And I'm just blown away. I'm going to have to go back and listen to this one like 2 or 3 times to really take it all in and then tweak what it is that I'm doing with onboarding, because I just realized I'm missing so much.
Like, I guess just to encapsulate everything, it's the game is won in research, and so many people really don't know how to research, and they don't know what to look for. And your ad is the end result of your research, and that's really it. So if your ad is not crushing it, like I know we got to wrap up here. I learned so much from John Carlton. That guy is such an inspiration to me. I would read his sales letters. Like, he's got this bodybuilding sales letter that was written, I don't know, in the 80s or something, and it was an open letter to every bodybuilder who secretly believes most supplements are garbage. And I read that and I was inspired for years. I was like, wow, how did he get to such a depth of deep understanding? I was just such a next level, piece of copy for me. And I just, like, the minute I read that, I was like, oh my God, I'm taking a lame horse to the race every single time. Like, this is the standard that I gotta get to. And that was really the letter that kind of set in motion what I believe was the most transformational awakening that I had in my copywriting career, which is, I got to figure out how to research on another level.
Mm-hmm. I think also it's become kind of a recurring theme recently on the podcast, which is that the average consumer out there now is much more skeptical, and they're a much more sophisticated market, and they have access to tons of different offers. They have access to feedback from people, and they've more than likely tried 2, 3, 4 different solutions. And you can't just be speaking to those surface level, unsophisticated market talking points that we used to get we used to be able to get away with, and that doesn't work anymore. And this is the solve for that. So, man, I just thank you for coming on and sharing all of this with us today.
Yeah, and look, I want to acknowledge something you said, Caleb. I understand this is a small piece, but maybe the linchpin of a much bigger, more in-depth research and copy creation process that you use. But nevertheless, just sharing this much was a real gift, and we really appreciate it. We really do a lot. Thank you so
I'm
much.
honored to be on here. So thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to share it.
Absolutely. And before we go, in the show notes, copywriterspodcast.com, we will make sure to have a link to your book, Monetization. It's a phenomenal book. If the listener enjoyed this episode, they're going to love your book. Is there anything else? I know you mentioned you're working on a SaaS product. I don't know if it's ready to announce yet, or is there anywhere else that we should send people besides to your book?
Yeah, I launched my own podcast on YouTube called the Monetizers Show. It's morphing all the time, and I'm co-hosting it with the legendary Robert Scrobe, and I'm actually going to be taking people through the journey. Probably the next, in the next 2 weeks, content will be dropping where I'm actually taking people through the journey of masterminding this SaaS and launching it and creating all the advertising for it. So if anybody wants to follow along over the next few months and see how I'm putting all of that together from a copy perspective, as well as just launching a SaaS business and giving it a hell of a shot and see if I can launch it and make it successful, that might be a fascinating journey for some of your listeners.
Yeah,
Nice.
and I'll tell you what, when you launch the SaaS, if you'd like to come back and talk about it, I think that'd be
Oh,
interesting too.
thank you so much. I'd be honored. Absolutely. Thank you
All
both.
right. Caleb, thank you so much for coming back on. We really appreciate you dropping these jewels for our listeners. And again, if you want to get the show notes for this episode, head on over to copywriterspodcast.com. We'll make sure to have a link to Caleb's book in the show notes for this episode over there, copywriterspodcast.com. And until next time, we will catch you later.
Catch you later.
Go.
Thanks, Caleb.